Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, I'm speaking with Kristen Kish, the new host of Bravo's Emmy Award-winning Top Chef. Kristen is also the chef and partner of Arlo Grey in Austin, Texas, as well as the founder of Kish Apéritif, a line of chef-inspired liqueurs designed to elevate anyone's cocktail craft. Kish's career in television began when she competed in and won season 10 of Top Chef, earning the distinction of becoming the franchise's second female winner. Now coming full circle, she's hosting the 21st season, scheduled to air on March 20th. Her credits include co-star of Fast Foodies on True TV Food Network and co-host of Iron Chef on Netflix. Kristen also hosts and produces Restaurants at the End of the World on National Geographic Disney+. In 2023, she was named to Time 100's Next, Adweek's Creative 100, and Marie Claire's Power Lists. Kristen has also authored 2 cookbooks, Kristen Kish Cooking, Recipes and Techniques, and It's All in the Sauce, bringing your uniqueness to the table. So join us today as we chat with Kristen about Top Chef Season 21, staying true to yourself in the culinary world, and so much more. And there she is. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I need to catch my breath. That's a lot. That's a lot. Oh my gosh. We are so excited. Thank you so much for taking some time out of the day. I know I can't imagine how busy you are, but first and foremost, as I told you, I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm happy. I feel like it's Christmas. I'm chomping at the bit, but I've got to get right to it. I have to go back to 2006. You graduated from Cordon Bleu in Chicago. I just happened to be, involved with Le Cordon Bleu at that time. And here we are 18 years later, coming full circle. Wow. Just wow. My wife says hello. My daughters say hello. My niece says hello. Students around the corner in the pastry lab here at Escoffier say hello. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much.
18 years.
What?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Shocking. It kind of makes you like, I'm like, how old am I? I feel like, when people are like, oh, back in 2001, you're like, oh, that was just a couple years ago. No. That's like over 2 decades ago, which is
it's a long time ago.
It is.
I'm going to go off a script just for a minute there because I play this game every once in a while. As I age, right, I can remember 20 years ago thinking, what is it going to be like when I'm, 46 or 56 or, did you think about things like that in 2006? Like, hey, this, or did you just let it all happen?
No, I kind of let it all happen. And I've always said my life is a series of happy accidents. And so much of it was designed by my own desires and passions and purpose and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was just like one thing led to the next, led to the next, led to the next. And I don't know if I would have ever been able to tell you back then that this is what I wanted, because I didn't know it existed or was an option for me.
Well, and that's okay too, right? So it comes to you. So that element of surprise, satisfaction, again, congratulations from everyone. Students keep walking by saying, hi. I love it. I absolutely love it. We'll get to Top Chef and all of the accolades, but I wanted to open up Ryan Flynn, who's a senior VP of current production at NBC Universal. He says, Kristen Kish represents everything that makes Top Chef incredibly special. She's an acclaimed chef, and her experience as a contestant, winner, and judge, alongside her culinary curiosity, love that, makes Kristen the perfect host for the next chapter of Top Chef as we take on a new region of the country that we haven't explored. And you mentioned, in a similar way, Top Chef is where, I started my journey, first as a competing chef, then a guest judge, and now as a host, and I have the honor of helping to continue to build this brand. It feels like coming home. Can you take us back to that day? This is always so exciting when you got that phone call that from the network. How did that feel, and did it all make sense?
No, none of it made sense at all to me. It was a surprise. just like everyone saw, on Instagram, Padma announced her departure. And, I naturally, I'm like, oh, wow, I wonder who's going to take that job. Like, that's a big job. How do you do that after someone's been kind of the face of it for 19 seasons? And it kind of like came and went. As you said, I am quite busy, so I wasn't like sitting on this thing for quite some time. I carried on with my life, and I ended up I was in Thailand and for work, and I was flying back from Thailand back to New York and stop over in Dubai. So I land in Dubai, I turn my phone back on, and I have texts, missed calls, everything from one of my managers. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is either super urgent or something's really bad. Like, I don't know what's going on right now. And so I immediately call her as soon as I touched down, turn my phone. I'm like, what's up? I just landed. She was like, Bravo wants to talk to you. And I was like, and I know what that means. Like, I wasn't so far like forgotten about what I had just read. And I was like, well, I have to call you back. Like, I have to get off this plane. I got to get through security. I have to catch my next flight to make it back home. And so I called her in security line. I'm putting my suitcase up. I call her back and I'm like, all right, listen, I have like about 2 minutes before they're going to make me go through this metal detector. Like, what? She was like, can you be on an airplane? They want you out. They want you in LA in like 2 days. And meanwhile, I am in Dubai. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Around the world.
yeah. I was like, sure. Yeah. Like, I'll land. I repacked and I went back to the airport. And everything just happened like really, really quickly.
I mean, I think I almost felt it when you just said that. Heck, when I saw that Padma was leaving, I thought maybe they called me. I mean, you had to think about it for a minute, right? I mean, it's so unbelievably exciting, right?
Yeah.
And so um is there or was there someone in your life? I want to go all the way back
Hmm.
who encouraged you. I mean, television is tough for so many
Yeah.
people. I mean, the cameras and all of that. Was there someone who really sort of encouraged you to take that step and I don't know if you had any fears or not, but to overcome those fears to get in
Sure.
front of the camera? Who was that go-to person back then?
I don't know if I ever had that moment of like, I want to be on TV and this is how I'm going to do it. Culinary school happened because I was miserable at university going for international business and economics, subjects that I had no purpose or business doing, quite frankly. I wasn't good at it. And so after my first year of college, about mid-season or midway through that semester, I started living at home again. And my mom could see like how unhappy I was. And eventually it got to the place where it's like, well, clearly you shouldn't be going back to continue this degree. Um, she was like, you've always liked cooking. Like, why don't you go to culinary school? And I was like, sure. And I think at that point in life, I was 19. You're just trying to find where you want to fit in, like just trying everything on for size. And so I was like, sure, like it sure is better than what I'm doing right now. And so we drove to Chicago. We, enrolled me in culinary school, did the whole thing. And then when I enrolled, there was not one part of me that said, I want to be on TV one day. Like, in fact, I have had severe social anxiety my entire life. Um, Nervous in front of camera, in front of people's, in front of large groups of people. And that was just never something that I felt like was natural for me. And so when Top Chef came along, I don't know how many decades later, not decades, I guess I was 19. Hold on, let me do the math. I was 19 when I went to culinary school. I was 20, I think it was like 26 when I started entertaining the phone calls for Top Chef. So it all happened because my then boss, Barbara, she was like, Top Chef is looking for more women chefs, and I think you can do it, and I know you can win. And she was like, so I gave your name forward. And I was like, you got to be out of your freaking mind. Like, absolutely not. No way. I was cooking for 10 people a night. I had a very controlled environment. And that was how I tamed my anxiety, by controlling my environment to make sure that it was a safe place for me. And I don't know what happened. Like, my whole thing was just like, I think timing plus the idea of saying yes until I want to say no all kind of collided. And I just ended up doing it. And I don't know, things just happened. I couldn't tell you how. Everything just happened
And
because I didn't control it.
and that's probably why it comes across so genuine, so real, because you just let it happen. I'm going to sound like I'm lecturing. My wife's going to kill me. But here's what I'm going to say. When you mentioned anxiety and being nervous, here's what I tell my son, who's somewhat of a baseball prodigy. You know, he thinks he is anyway. He's getting there, but he gets nervous. He
Yeah.
gets nervous, and I say the same thing before every single game. You're nervous because you care.
Hmm.
You're If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel anything right now,
Right.
right?
Right.
You're nervous because you care.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question too. Not just because you went to a culinary school with kind of a French brand and all of that, but I'm really curious. You know, here at Escoffier, obviously with the Gouste Escoffier as our foundation, does your foundation in French technique
Hmm.
um, does it influence you? Can you ever leverage? I mean, you know more than most, right? So do you leverage that sometimes on the show? Like, hey, I know how this is supposed to be, and and yeah, I'm just curious if that's part of your DNA.
When culinary schools kind of started becoming this thing, it was all rooted in French technique. There wasn't saying, "Oh, go to culinary school and learn Korean cooking."
Yeah,
Like there were
yeah,
courses and international courses that were offered within the structure of a French brand. And so I think by nature and by availability, that's just what I learned. I think the foundation of French technique is something that I gravitate towards. It's something that I enjoy. It's something that I like to be good at. Because for me, when that was the thing that was available, I could then take that and incorporate it in so many different ways. It doesn't mean I have to cook French food. I don't necessarily think French food is just one thing, just like Korean food isn't one thing. You can put your own spin, but once you have this foundation of how to properly braise, sear, roast, what it means to brunoise or dice or whatever, you can apply that to so many different other cultures. And so for me, that foundation is really the thing that allows me to cook other kinds of food. Um, do I wish that there were more international courses in culinary school, especially when I was going? 100%. I would have loved to have more than
sure.
just one class. But that's the beauty, and I guess what was the catalyst to so much of my desire to want to travel and to learn, to soak in other ways people do things. The French mother sauces are great and all, but also like we can do more too. Not everything has to be based off of a French mother sauce, if you ask me.
No, so well said. And ironically enough, that's the way Auguste Escoffier would be really proud hearing that, right? That was one of his tenets was this idea that, it's just a foundation. And then he encouraged creativity.
Hmm.
And, so I love that. So here's the like tough question
Mm.
to always ask because I don't ever want to underestimate the amount of work that goes into what you do. You make it
Hmm.
look so easy, but people have to realize the hours and
Hmm.
hours of anxiety and nervousness and what's going on in front of you with all the cameras. But for students or practitioners of this craft who have aspirations to be you, right?
Hmm.
To be on that camera, I'm really curious how someone should prepare themselves mentally
Hmm.
for that rigor. Not just physically, not
Right.
just technically, but mentally for that,
Mm.
maybe being disappointed at times and maybe being off key or being super, super successful as
Right.
well. Um, any thoughts on that?
There's a couple ways I look at it, and I feel, there are some people, actors, great Oscar winners that have like always known that they've wanted to be on the screen
Hmm.
since, and they train that muscle, like they learn how to be a better actor, learn how to deliver something. But when you're asked to be on television for being you, like you've got to have a firm grasp of what that is. I say that not saying like I need to have a list of understanding every single parts of me, but I understand where I am challenged the most, right? So I know what I'm good at, but even more than what I know that I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at and where I have to work harder to be good at it. I think that there's an understanding that you don't ever go on television to become rich and famous. You go on because you want to be there. Or in my case, you kind of go on because it just kind of kept presenting itself. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? And I always align myself. It's not just television. It's certain projects that happen to be on television that I gravitate towards. So I don't take every television job. I take the ones where I'm allowed to be myself, where I can flex different muscles of being a professional chef, or me being a curious human being, or me being, any other version of myself. So it's not saying I want to go on TV and this is how you do it. It's saying, well, what means something to you? And then if there is an opportunity to put that and share that and showcase that on television, great. If you want to go on Top Chef, like, man, I don't know. I don't even know how I got there. I just, someone believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And it's just, again, you have to do it for the right reasons. If you don't do it for the right reasons, it's going to fail. It's going to come off disingenuous. And really, it's not going to kind of take you the length in which I think you're hoping for when you initially started out for that.
Oh, it's so well said. I love that you say, I understand where I am challenged the most. That's humility. That's, being real to yourself. That's a great lesson for students right there. Understanding where they're challenged the most. Culinary students are really funny because they just assume they have to get it right the first time,
Mhm.
right?
I was that way. Yeah.
So now we're going to season 21.
Yeah.
The backdrop is Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Lots of cheese, right? So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. I don't know how much you can disclose or how much you can talk about. Probably not much, but well, for those who have watched, and for those who, I mean, you got there. If my memory, serves me correctly, what five
Last Chance
times
Kitchen.
5 times you had
Yeah.
to win in Last Chance Kitchen. I mean, that's perseverance, right? So, I guess for me as a fan, as a viewer,
Mhm.
um, I have read that there's new rules.
There are new rules.
It's it's I mean, it seems tough already, right? So
It is. None of the rules change the heart and the soul of the show. Top Chef is successful and has been long running for a reason, and that is because people trust it, not only for entertainment, but they trust it to know that it's a true, authentic, genuine place that showcases the talent and skills of a chef when put in challenges. And so none of that's being messed with.
yeah, yeah.
For instance, as I read down my bullet points, so if anyone comes at me and Bravo's like,
You
you
heard it
can't say
here
that, I was like,
first. You heard it here first.
it's in my email.
I love it.
All right. So first off, there's longer episodes. So instead of 60
Oh,
minutes, it's 75 minutes.
nice,
All through the
nice.
season. It's just because we gave them so much good stuff. I quote, for the first time in series history, the chef testants will have the opportunity to win cash prize at every quickfire, and immunity is no longer up for grabs at the elimination challenges. Oh, is up for grabs at elimination. So basically, quick fires, you used to be able to win immunity for that next elimination challenge. Now,
Yeah.
all of that, you can't do it. But there is money attached to every single quick fire of the season. So you have a real chance of like making some cash.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exciting.
if you win an elimination challenge, that gives you immunity for the next elimination challenge in the next episode in the following
Okay.
week.
Okay. I'm super curious as you look at your list there
Mhm.
and you're coming in to take over. Did you have some influence as a not just a contestant, but a winner and a
Mm.
fan and a chef? Did you have some influence on what you like to see in the show?
I think the producers are good at their job because they've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
fantastic team. So like the supersized episodes, the quick fire, the elimination immunity kind of situation, like that was already in motion, and I bet they had been planning that for years.
Got it. Got it.
Things of like details of challenges, like it's always a conversation. Like if they have a question, and Tom's also really good about it. Him and Gail being executive producers, they also don't leave me out of the conversation. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah.
earned and deserve that title, and that control in a lot of ways. But when we're talking about chefs and food, the more the merrier on a point of view, right? Especially me being someone that has gone through it. Like, would this be hard? Is this too hard? are we asking too much or too little? So that conversation is always very transparent. But for the most part, like going into the season, like it's buttoned up, right? There has to be planning involved. So like challenges need to be set. So we're not like building things on the fly. But consulting opinions is always a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think what's really exciting for me, one of the most exciting parts is, for the longest time, the host has always run the quickfire. So Padma has always been the quickfire judge along with perhaps a guest judge, which is great, but it also leaves no room for, Tom and Gail to perhaps have input or weigh in, or what if you need to revert back to a quickfire challenge? So on the back half of the season, it's Tom, Gail, and I at every quickfire. So then we're able to add that into the conversation.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And where did that, was that a producer decision or was that
That was a
something?
higher being decision.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
I love it.
I just, yeah, I really love it. This is kind of my wife's going to kill me for telling this story, but when you're a fan, right? When you're in the industry and a show like Top Chef comes on, um, where you hang on every activity and you feel for the contestants, right? I can't remember what season she was. So I said earlier, I have 4 kids, 3 girls, 1 boy. And when we had our little girl, we had a few names, but we were really immersed in that particular season. That Grayson, do you remember Grayson? I want to say it
Sounds
was,
familiar. Sounds
yeah,
familiar.
yeah. She didn't win. She didn't win, but she was phenomenal. She was just she was effervescent and fun. And, so my little girl's name is Grayson after
No,
a Top Chef contestant.
what an impact. Look at
Right?
that.
Right? Oh, I love it. Hey, like can we can we go back to your childhood? I want to talk about you. Just want to talk about you a little bit. You were born in South Korea. You were adopted into a family in Michigan, Kentwood, Michigan. And I've read a lot that you showed this, kind of this passion, affinity for cooking at a young age, right? So, you mentioned your mom's influence. Can you take me back? I'm fascinated by, you hear all the stories that, I was reaching for the, for the countertop. I was, picking up stuff off the ground. Do you remember when did that passion kind of hit you a little bit? Or was it later when your mom said, "Hey, you like cooking, go to culinary school"?
I don't know. It certainly wasn't passion at 5 years old.
Oh,
It was intrigue and curiosity. And I feel like I always said like cooking became a part of my life because at 5, 6 years old, when you're watching TV and that allotted amount of time that you're allowed to have after school, before dinner, there were a couple shows that were on. The Oprah Winfrey Show, which I loved watching as a child, watch it all the way through high school. Um, and Great Chefs of the World. And those just happened to be on back to back to back. So, well, actually, it was like 2 30-minute episodes of Great Chefs of the World and then Oprah or some kind of combination of that. And whether it was pure coincidence and timing of when that show was on and why I took interest to it, or whether it was truly a passion in cooking, I don't know. I err towards it just happened to be the thing that I gravitated towards because I didn't love watching all cooking shows. I liked
yeah.
watching specific cooking shows. And so it wasn't about the cooking. I think it was about the delivery and what was being shared that I took to. And so I always say, had it been a show on woodworking or Bob Villa would have been on it, that Bob Villa or whatever his name is, about like fixing up houses, I would probably be doing that. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was time and place. And it just kind of like it took over my interest. And I wasn't the kid to be like, oh, I'm going to cook tonight and doing all this stuff. Like I had other interests. I want to go out and play with my friends. I went to basketball camps, played softball. Like I did other things. Cooking wasn't the center of my universe. And it
I'm
wasn't until actually I had to go to school where it became part of my schedule.
I got such a chill when I almost forgot about Great Chefs. And what an interesting program that I can remember Dean Fearing being featured
Mm.
on there and Mark Miller. There was a big movement with Southwest cuisine back then, but it wasn't particularly great production either,
No,
right?
it wasn't.
It wasn't that good. right?
No.
And the food was heavy and stuff, but yeah, and there was a whole collection of books and
Mhm.
wow, what a great memory. Um, you also started I don't know if you can or want to talk about this, but you
Sure.
started modeling at a very, very young age. Um, was there a point when you were doing that you saw yourself doing that long term?
No, modeling was never a thing. Like it was a thing because I was 13. I was 5'9" and just over 100 pounds. Like it was just because I looked like it to other people. I did not necessarily like doing it. I did it when like things felt easy, right? I was like, oh, that I can go to that thing or I can take that picture, sure. But again, certainly not a passion. I don't think at that age I had any passions other than hanging out with my friends and trying to like make it through life. It was for me a blip in the radar that just happened to happen. I made a little bit of money off of it, and that was it. And it kind of came and went as fast as I could blink my eyes twice.
My son is going to be so happy that I talked to you today because he's 13 and I put a lot of pressure on him, but I think I'm going to go easy on him a little bit after talking to you.
Yeah,
Let him go play with your friends, right? It's
yeah. You gotta leave room to figure out what it is you want to do.
I love it. Let's fast forward a little bit to Cordon Bleu. So you land there, and in those days, it was a bigger school. There were a lot of students there.
Mhm.
I'm curious how, and then you went on to work at not just restaurants, but some pretty high profile restaurants in the Boston area and such. I
Yes.
mean, big move, right? I'm kind of curious, and I ask this mostly for students. Did the experience at culinary school, specific classes, or just the fact that you had an interest in
Mhm.
doing more, did that prepare you for cooking at that level?
That's a complicated answer. And it's the same way that I kind of look at the question of is culinary school necessary? For me, it was culinary school. Yes, it gave me this foundation of cooking and learning techniques and different things, of course. And that has carried on and kind of set this nice foundation as I moved forward. The thing that culinary school I feel taught me the most was that I could be good at something, because all the way leading up to culinary school, I never thought I was going to be good at anything. I didn't think I could be good at anything. And so I remember my first 101 class, knife skills. I will never forget him. Mr. McGinnis was his name, and I don't even remember his
Oh,
first name.
oh my gosh, he was great. Yeah, Mike. Yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
yeah. And I was chopping cabbage as you do in Knife Skills 101, where tons of vegetables are thrown at you and they're like, we need 8,000 pounds of coleslaw. And you just like get to work. And I start cutting, and pretty quickly he came around. He was like, God, you've done this before. And in my brain, I'm like, no, I haven't. I've watched a lot of TV. But that gave me this sense of confidence and purpose that I was potentially just on the right path. And so for me, that's what I needed more so than anything that was like taught to me.
No, I
Um,
love that. And that could be any educational experience, right? If
mhm.
you want to be um, a carpenter or a plumber or a lawyer or a doctor, I
Yeah,
love how you say it gave you confidence and purpose. That's all we can ask
right.
from an
And
educational institution, right?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, when I left culinary school, I had this inflated idea of what it was supposed to be outside of culinary school. Like I chose the 2-year program. I was like, I don't want to go to school one day over 2 years. It's not happening. Get me out there. Get me out there and let me become an executive chef. Like, because that was the dream that was sold. It's like go to cooking school, become a chef. Like,
Yeah.
but the all that middle part of like line cook and apprenticeships and working your way up and having restaurants that don't serve you very well, but you're going to learn from that and you're going to go find somewhere else that can maybe teach you what you want to learn. Like all that middle part, I chose to ignore if it was being told to me. And so what ended up happening is I left culinary school. I started going, my first 2 jobs that I applied for right out of culinary school was executive sous chef of the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown
In
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And then executive sous chef of like the Sofitel. I had no business applying for those jobs. None, zero experience. I had culinary school, but I thought that's what it was. Like, I was like, but this is what I'm supposed to do. So, I had to find my way. I struggled a little bit in Chicago before eventually finding my way to Boston. But, I think that when I look back, like in my career now and the things that I know in my restaurant from a technical foundation standpoint, I learned that in culinary school.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can, when you go into do a stage, the fact that you know what terms mean, that if the chef is like, hey, can you go cook this sauce to ossec, and then you're going to add some chicken jus and you're going to cook it to nappe and all this stuff, like, what that means, because that's how you talk in restaurants.
No, it really, really well said. Yeah, the narrative is important, right? So that you get cognitive a little bit, right? That it's a really good point, Chef, because half the time what we want our students to do, like the coaching I do for chefs today, is to just please be a facilitator. McGinnis was great, but today, 20 years later, I just ask our chefs to be a great facilitator of knowledge, because our students know a lot and they know what they want and what they want to do. Just be a great facilitator of knowledge. Years and years and years ago, you had to go to culinary school because that's where knowledge was kept. But knowledge is everywhere today. It's on Top Chef, right? It's and you know what? I'd love to segue in Austin, Texas, one of my most famous or favorite cities. We have a school there. Can you talk a little bit about not just about Arlo Grey, but like how do you open up a restaurant? You're about to be the host on Top Chef. You got all this other stuff going on, and oh, by the way, Arlo Grey.
Yeah, I mean, Arlo Grey happened. It'll be 6 years in June. So we opened in 2018. Yeah, 6 years, and
unbelievable, right?
It was something that I didn't want. I didn't want a restaurant, or at least I didn't think I wanted one. And my life was great. I was traveling. I was doing pop-ups all over the world. I was writing writing my first cookbook, and I was fine. But what I realized is that is as I started avoiding this whole restaurant topic, like offers would come in, ask, like, people are, asking, do you want to open a restaurant? Can we be your investors? Da, 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 da. And I realized it went from saying no, because I was like, no, I need to like explore my life outside of restaurants. I just spent how long in a restaurant? I need to get off the line for a second. And all of a sudden it started going into, I was saying no, but not for that reason anymore. I was saying no because I was too scared. I was like, well, what if I don't do good? What if I fail? What if no one comes? What if no one likes it? And I was avoiding it based off of fear. And when it finally registered that I was saying no because of fear, that's when I said, yeah, I'm going to do it, because that's the time to do it. And again, timing is everything. And, I got an offer at the time, and it came at a time where I was like, yes, I want to do this. And it just kind of all happened. And out of the deal, I met my wife. So I can't really complain about any of it.
No, well said. I'm going to be in Austin in a few weeks, so we're gonna
Please come by.
We're gonna stop by. I read that you described Arlo Grey as a love letter to yourself. Really beautiful.
I think anyone that opens a restaurant for the first time, like, we spend our career cooking other people's food. You work out of recipe books that are given to you. You work in culinary school where it says you need to cook this. You are a soldier and a robot for another chef. And so when time comes where you're finally allowed to say, go cook your food, you're like, for me, I was like, what's my food? What's my food? And so I put together the menu, and my first menu wasn't what Austin market wanted or needed. It wasn't successful in that way. So I had to reshift that frame of mind. And as opposed to cooking with my head, and probably some ego, I had to start cooking with what actually meant something to me, without trying to be like the best of something. It was just like, you know what, this is the food that speaks to me, and this is where I draw inspiration from, and this is what I want to share with others, because it's the only thing, the only story, and the only restaurant out there that will remain unique is if it's just something that only we, each individual person, can create. And it took about 1.5 years to find and slowly shift, where it didn't feel like we were changing concepts, but like slowly get it into the right place. And so for me, being able to say that was a love letter to myself was truly that. It was like I finally stepped into who I am, not cooking for awards, accolades, attention. It was cooking because I wanted to cook.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I want to talk about the book in just a moment, but I have your Instagram. I told you I did a lot of research. I just want to give you kudos because what you say on here is just so real. You say, I cook things for you to eat and I host things on TV for you to watch.
Mhm.
That's so selfless, right? That's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
That you want to do this. We always say, um, from a hospitality perspective, if you want to serve others, if you want to make other people happy,
Mhm.
you'll do well in this industry, right?
Yeah,
So
I feel like if I cook and I have a restaurant, if no one comes, I don't have a restaurant. And
right,
if I make
yeah,
things for on television and no one watches, then that television show is not going to happen. So like without the consumer on the other side, there is no restaurant and there is no TV show.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Full circle, full circle. Your most recent book, It's All in the Sauce, Bringing the Uniqueness to the Table. Can you tell us a little bit about the format of that book and what it means to children and
Mhm.
what your goal is in terms of encouraging children?
That came to be because of this partnership I was working on, and I got to build a team of three people, an author, a co-author, an illustrator, and a marketer. And we built this like kind of dream team. And the whole purpose of writing that book was to obviously have this product and put it out there and this kind of like build your own adventure for kids, like experiment in the kitchen. It doesn't, I'm not trying to teach this kid how to make homemade pasta and like a great sauce. It's like, what do you want to put in your grilled cheese today? At least it like encourages conversation of saying, well, do you want to put M&Ms in your grilled cheese? Sure, we can do that. Go ahead and taste it and tell me if you're ever going to do it again. Like let someone else have or let the kid have their own opinion and their own view and like their own like creativity in the kitchen. And that's really what it came down to. And we created the book with net proceeds going to What's in the Mirror, which is a not-for-profit in Austin, supporting the LGBTQ community, trans community, especially in communities of color. And that to me is like giving kids permission to do something while raising money for some like a group of people that I feel very passionate for. Like, why not make it, And so that to me was a passion project.
No, I love it. I love it. Um, I want to come back to cooking just again for just a quick second. Your creations, over time showcase this, just this wonderful blend of creativity, and precision, right? Which I really, really love. Can you speak a little bit? This is mostly for the students, what the process feels like to you or looks like to you in developing a signature dish, a dish
Mm,
that tells people it's you cooking from the
right.
heart. I'm curious what that approach looks like.
My point of inspiration, and I tell my executive chef this all the time at the restaurant. I'm like, if you can't trace it back to something that is familiar, I don't care what from like just familiar,
Mhm.
then that dish does not belong on our menu. If there's not a flavor that reminds you of something, someone, someplace, and it wasn't a memory that you have, it does not belong on our menu. And so when creating, I guess, a signature dish, when I created my first menu for Arlo Grey, the opening menu, there have been three dishes that remain on the menu, and not by my own choice. I wasn't like, this is going to be our signature menu. It's the people, that's what people kept ordering. It was a top seller night after night after night. Not everything on the menu had like this tie back, as I had mentioned, it took me a minute to find that. But the three things on that menu that have remained the signatures were ones that were very distinctly tied back to something in my life. So for instance, we have and we didn't push it that way, right? So people just naturally gravitate, I think, towards that. And so there's this great pasta dish with this beautiful sauce. It takes 4 days, 3 days to make. We're extruding, Texas grains and freshly milled through our Italian extruder, like all this stuff, right? But it's a bowl of pasta, and it is my ode to hamburger helper of sorts. Growing up, like it's salty, it's umami, it's rich, it's comforting. It's homey and it feels really good, but it's done really well. And then there's this rice dish that we have on the menu. That's a combination of my college takeout order, which was crab fried rice, and my Koreanness side of bibimbap. Now, not flavor profile wise, but like the heart of the dish and where I pulled the inspiration from. And then there's a dessert on there that's a lime sorbet with the aloe and yuzu espuma. And it was based off of two things. One, the middle section of the red, white, and blue popsicles. I
Oh my
loved
gosh.
it.
Yeah.
And I really liked the white part
Oh,
because it didn't stain my teeth
yeah.
and it didn't make my whole mouth white or blue or red. And so that was always my favorite part of it. And then this trip I took to Singapore, at the end of the night, they just brought out this citrus sorbet with like one or two extra like things in there. And I was like, this is near perfect. So I took those two things and married them together to create this dessert. So those three things are on the menu to this day.
I love it. And the key word is familiar.
Mhm.
That's such a good lesson. The other day I was reading an old book by Michel Richard.
Mhm.
Um, and it was really interesting. He was talking about the one thing that he always encouraged his kitchen to do, and that was to sharpen the meal. So what he was referring to is, and he doesn't care if it's a little bit of salt or fresh, black pepper or red pepper flakes, or he even mentioned like a sprig of rosemary, just something at the end to sharpen the dish.
Mm.
I think I agree with it. I've been waiting to ask someone what they thought, and I just read this the other night. There's a few recipes that I've made in that book a million times, but how do you feel about that? That is, just that to sharpen the dish, that one last thing, or because in culinary school we tell students not to do that. We tell them to
Mm.
stick to the technique, right?
I think I understand it, and I don't know if I understand it in the way that he meant for it to be. But in my brain, when you sharpen the dish, you're making it full. It's round. It's not extra. It's necessary. It's like
Oh,
how sauces need a touch of vinegar. It's not sharpening the dish with vinegar. It's actually making the sauce full. And so the way I look at sharpening the dish is just making sure that everything necessary in there in order to, convey it to the palate in the way that you want it to be conveyed.
that's a great interpretation. Yeah, yeah. Well said. So, Kristen, your impact on the world of professional cooking, cooking at a very high level, let's say, and in front of a lot of people,
Mm.
has been profound. What we're seeing a lot of today is this interest by, I'm going to say, the enthusiast crowd, right?
Mm.
Just people who simply love to cook, simply love to eat, simply love learning about food. I'm curious if you have any advice on how that audience can foster a deeper appreciation for not just food, but culinary techniques.
Mm. When I think of home cooks, the fact that people are just getting in there and wanting to be in there is already a step ahead, right? There's so many people,
Sure.
and I have the days too where I don't want to be cooking my dinner. I have to cook my dinner. It's the same way. You have to just put food on the table for your family. And however you get there, it kind of doesn't matter. So I am in no place to be like, we need to focus on this, this, and this when you do that. No, no, no. Do what you need to do in order to live your life and maintain whatever kind of busy schedule, mentally stable life that you are going for. I think that there's not one way to appreciate the culinary arts. There's not one way to appreciate chefs. There's not one way to do it right and to show that you care. If you care, great. If you don't, fine, whatever, go do what you're doing. There are moments, I'm not going to lie, when I watch social media and my eyes roll. I'm like, oh my God, really? Really? Are we doing this? But I'm not going to leave a comment saying you suck on their thing. Like, let people do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Everyone's got something that they're trying to achieve. And if whatever that might be and however you get there, that's not my spot to police that.
I agree. I agree. I just noticed, I can't believe I just noticed it, but over your left shoulder, down about three shelves, you've got the collection of molecular gastronomy books.
I
I'm
do.
looking at mine right here, just beyond the computer screen. I mean, I don't know the last time I looked at them, but I
Yeah.
remember when they first came out. Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
I couldn't put them down. I couldn't
Well,
put
it
them.
was that one's the pizza version. And so it
Oh, is
was
that
like
the pizza version? Okay,
it's
got
the
it. Yeah.
so I will say it was sent to me. But when I was in Seattle, because my season of Top Chef was in Seattle, one of like the scenes or the outings is, oftentimes like Padma will take everyone out to dinner, like the chefs. And we did the same thing and we went to his lab
His lab. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
had like a 3 or 5 course menu, and it was fantastic. So it's there for a reason. There is a connection to it, and I do find it incredibly informative.
I love it. I love it. Hey, so before we get to the hardest question of the chat, I just want to say again, sincerely, wow, thank you for taking the time to
My
chat
pleasure.
with us with your busy schedule. So genuine, so humble. I'm appreciative and so proud of you. Congratulations
Thank you.
on all of the success. I mean, and I can't wait for the season, March 20th,
Hmm.
to kick off. But before we let you go, the name of the podcast is The Ultimate Dish. You started to allude to it a little bit, but I'm really curious in your mind, what is the ultimate dish?
Can I ask one clarifying question
You bet.
that I want to eat or that I want to give to other people?
Oh, great
Those are two,
question.
two very
Based,
different things.
can I get two answers?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you the answer of what I would what I would give to somebody. And my answer is always, I don't, there are chefs that cook for themselves. Like truly they cook for them and other people get to enjoy it. I cook for the pure pleasure of somebody else. Feeding myself, I don't love it. I'd rather order takeout at like a 2-star Yelp reviewed takeout place than have to cook myself dinner.
Mhm.
So it's whatever that other person wants. I ask my wife, our friends that come over, what do you guys want? They're like, oh, whatever you want. No, no, no. It's not whatever I want. I want you to tell me exactly what you're craving. It could be so specific down to the last grain of salt to say, I had this dish in Barcelona in in year 2000, and I want that again. And then give me the flavor profile and let me do it. Now, I can do it. I can't guarantee it's going to be great, but I can do it. So my ultimate dish for other people is whatever their ultimate dish is for themselves.
We have not had that answer, and I love that answer. It's a brilliant answer. Again,
Um,
selfless, right? I love it.
my ultimate dish for myself is without question, like hands down, delivery or takeout chicken fingers, French fries, ranch dressing, and mayonnaise. Hits every time. Hits every time.
I love it. I love it. I'm definitely not letting my wife listen to that. But it's honest though, right? Sometimes it hits the spot. I
It
love it.
is, there is
It's
not a time where it does not hit the spot for me.
there.
It is, there was one time when I ate it, and this, I don't know, this might sound gross and TMI, but whatever. There was this one time where I drank too much, we'll say. And I ordered room service chicken fingers, French fries, ranch dressing, mayo. And it didn't stay down very long. Now, after something like that happens and you have that deep memory of it coming back up, you don't want it for a while. Mm-mm. Next day. Next
No.
day. I was like, no, 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 it's not coming. It's going to stay down this time. It needs to stay down. It is just, it is everything that I want in a meal.
I love it. I love it. I have not had either of those answers in 106 episodes.
And
So
this is what
I
culinary school can do for
this
you.
is Oh, I love it. Can I just say thank you again? I know I've said it a million times. Thank you. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Best of luck. Um, can't wait to see the new episode. And I can't wait to see what's next because it feels like there's going to be a lot that's next for you.
Thank you. Well, tell your wife and all your kids hello. All the students at the school, hopefully they listen to this. Hello to everyone. I hope that you guys are all crushing it in class and enjoying yourself. First and foremost is having a good time. and learning a lot along the way. So good luck. And, if anyone needs a job after school, Austin, Texas is always looking.
Okay. I love the plug. I'm going to take you up on that. I am. And every student is going to listen to this. Can I just tell you? That'll be an assignment. I love it.
Thank you.
Take care. Best always.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast, where you'll find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. You can also browse other episodes and subscribe.